भारत अंतर्राष्ट्रीय केंद्र अर्थात इंडिया इंटरनेशनल सेंटर दिल्ली में अंग्रेजी के कवि कवयित्रियों का संकलन लोकार्पित हुआ। यह लोकार्पण भारत सरकार के पूर्व मंत्री श्री जगमोहन ने किया। इस संकलन को अंग्रेजी की लेखिका मंदिरा घोष ने तैयार किया। कार्यक्रम का संचालन संगीता कौल ने किया। कार्यक्रम में भारतीय अंग्रेजी कविता और उसके विकास पर भी हमने बातचीत की।
After all, a poetic mind is distinguished from the other minds by asking some fundamental questions, some basic questions. And after 70 years, we now find that the poverty is there, kala handis are there, and so many problems are there. Employment is there, unemployment is there. And that all the culture of superficiality, shallowness, some sort of a lack of conscience, things have really fallen apart.
भारतीय अंग्रेजी कविता में एक तो जो है रिदम है, जो इंडियंस हैं इनका जो रिदम है इंडियन रिदम है, और नेचुरली इंडियंस को अपने जो रिदम है, अपना फोर्स है, वो तो उस पर लिखते हैं। मगर सबसे बड़ी चीज़ है जो उसको इंडिविजुअलाइज करती है वो है इमेज। जो इमेज में आप लिखते हैं, इसी जो आप कह रहे हैं कि इसमें फ़र्क नहीं रह रहा है गद्य और पद्य में, मगर इमेज का इस्तेमाल जो कवि करता है वो कविता हम समझते हैं अच्छी होती है।
कार्यक्रम में विभिन्न मूड, परिस्थितियों और भावनाओं से संबंधित कविताओं का पाठ किया गया।
It's a vision of the vastness of the universe and so the great awe. Not to feed the loom of argument we hurry here, not mince words, pursue a tortuous logic, but to let rainbow-hued bubbles slip out in praise from willing lips. Come then, rhythmic breath, fly warmed from the gladly laboring lungs, and may each succeeding rhyme flush out the fluid that washes to a bright eyes that must see aright. Right the ratio between man and God, earth a pinhead, no bigger than may be glimpsed from the desolation of the moon, an end to the alternation of day and night, in sight light, only more light. Bright the thought that dances in my head, the spinning earth held by luck in the glance of the sun, by a chance 1,000,000 to 1. Bright the thought that dances the dance on a pinhead earth, smalled her seas, the pinnacles of the Himalayas a flea bite. Earth which no celestial telescope will sight in the wilds of the limitless void, and where is neither day nor night, only an unbroken, impossible quiet, passing time by parent time pygmied. O unimpaired vision come to eyes, vision on whose wings the sages swiftly rise, to view the true size of things, take a measure of the sun and moon against an awesomeness, so light refills the blind caverns, calm reborn of a new comprehension. O vision, flow in ease, set us low before the flashing fountain, our palms joined in obeisance. Humility come to the poor animal at last, the guilt of the colossal collective ignorance, contrite before the eternal whirl of the cosmic ring.
Are often compared, but the fading that I feel is tight-budded, anguish-touched, and the relief of falling petals seems far away.
Your God, my God. While the rest of the country fight about the names of gods and their differences on political planks, parliament, on TV, and in media, as they torch buses, smash shop windows, vandalize things in every imaginable way, you and I have traveled these many years together, bonding in prayer for each other. Although our gods have different names and they dress differently too.
In the vast wasteland of my inner being, I, a compulsive joker, am coming to terms with the biggest joke ever, that is me, myself. I crack up at the thought of becoming a saint clad in white, being able to differentiate between wrong and the right. I laugh at the prospect of becoming a business tycoon, flying a rocket to make a castle on the moon. I get cramps laughing when people call me great, maybe because my own weaknesses I truly hate. I know my friends are not lying when they say, in parts I am a saint, a businesswoman, and hold a promise of becoming great. But above all, I'm a joker. But above all, I'm a joker that laughs at her own pain while reacting to situations with apt perfection time and again. I amuse myself by looking in the mirror, a red nose, funny cap, loose pajamas, crazy boots, camouflaging my real self in the hideous mismatch of yellows, blacks, reds, and blues. Mostly savored by hungry moth, I cover my wounds with patches of old cloth, hide under a wig my impoverished mind that seeks ever so often richness of thought. I want to bury all my sorrow my heart takes for a bright tomorrow and chases delicate feelings comprising dreams while my anguished soul goes off to sleep. Tired of hope, pretense, and falsehood, my lonesome soul survives by pulling a thick blanket over its eyes. It wants to see nothing, hear nothing, feel nothing, just withdraw, be quiet, silent, and aloof. Life leaves me alone to seek my own truth.
The devouring din. Man has two parcel-faced wounds. The one yokes with a canoe recumbent, the other twining around a calm consolation. Man descends, but doesn't always accost sloppy moonbeam. The loveless city's sound, its painted words, never chased swaky solitude as original. Man incites Donish triumphs, stands to liberate pent apart. Sudden narration from the panorama resonates carbonized passion. The icons disappear into soft bells, blazing upon greater mass. Characters fade as they defy the change, while reasons walk toward the ring of remorse, as amending as the ruins of objectless consonants. Man hates gathering signals from briery grooves, hates the perjurer's act. The tomb weeper's masks are smeared with stains of sham when verdictless evenings spread misattributed candor. Man hates savagely literati who harbor through farcical shades of a giant wallpaper that advertises for grubby foundations. When man wakes up with humid heels of summer, and as the days go by, the city rams into intellectual derision. Instincts from bits and bobs, far from amenable thalami, fearfully real, sail through the tulip's rage. Man Ghosts through the seminary's sleepy petals. Those are unlikely to metamorphose. Impious days, or the unwanted mane, the feral literati. This devouring din enters a state of stillness.
You know, the Nirbhaya case has been in the news for such a long time, and it has generated so much debate. There have been, public debates on amendment to laws. How does a mother feel when your child is raped? Do you want to breathe one last time before you choke? Choke slowly 1,000 times or turn to ashes with every dying moment, enacting a scene which, like an act of incest, leaps before your eyes. Do you want to declare Draupadi like, bring his blood to me, so that I can rinse my daughter's hair clean from shame and lust, so that nobody can touch her again? Do you want to sit alone and hide, pretend and hallucinate that the act never happened? Do you want to hit every one of those in sympathy with a stone when their collective howls drain you of all self-respect? Do you want to go out with your husband and daughter to some unknown destination, just to hold her in your arms without anyone hearing the cacophony of your heart, with the stony weight of your daughter's shadow? Kill, beat your chest, feel amnesia, or turn insomniac. Stay in denial, or choose to write. Wait, simply wait for that day when she will break her silence and spell without fear or tears. Wait for the melting of ice and the cycle of seasons to take a full circle.
In so many places in our hearts, they remain for the times we find them. In that special chair they sat on, that unmade bed they slept on, in that loving smile they had on. In the many corners of the house, at the doorstep, near the gate, sometimes outside, but within always. Within our hearts that cannot forget, that familiar dread, beloved face. Is it a void or a loving grotto? An altar lit by images of love, or strewn with flowery hope asunder, an abyss in time? In so many places in our hearts, they remain for the times we find them, no longer there, but living on, unbidden, in a space we call memory.
It came to me so I may learn to accept, to weep, to feel. It came so my pain could teach me to love. It came so I may learn to heal. I had to learn to rise again. I had to learn to raise others when they fall. But if I chose not to learn all this, then there was no point in my suffering at all. I had so many roles to play in life, for I had to fulfill much responsibility. So I became what I thought I was needed to become, and I lost touch with me. I became part of religion, caste and creed, and in dividing myself, I became small, more small. In trying to fit into each role, I separated myself from all. I did not realize that I only needed to delve within, that I had but one identity, that I was but a being of love, and I only had to be me.
I did what they all do, played daughter, wife, mother, and friend. Played at a profession, crunching numbers, sifting ideas.